let's record. Oh, I went in and made courses available if they were on my list here. But if your course isn't available to students, as soon as you sign into Blackboard, if you'll go to quickly and then course availability, it will list all the courses that you have, and you just turn them on. This is the first time I've ever seen this, and I swear quickly wasn't there yesterday. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But I didn't see quickly because I looked everywhere yesterday for this. But it's there today.
And where is it in the drop down?
It's just right here. As soon as you sign into Blackboard, before you go into a course, this is your main menu.
Okay, thank you.
And then quickly is here today, and it's got course availability. When you click on it, you can turn on and off your courses. And so I turned all of them on that I have access to. That's most everybody's now. I don't have access to Malia's X course, the course by arrangement. She may have to do that one, but I think I've got everybody's course turned on now. I hope so, because I would like to get some rest. I've had 50 emails, calls, and texts the last 2 days. When's our course going to be available? And I swear this was not there yesterday, but it's there today, so that's all that matters. So I think I've got most of the courses turned on. If I've not, if you turn your course on, I put that in the email, so I hope everybody's course will get turned on. So that was the first thing on the list today. As you can see, course shells all are built and uploaded. The last one is Malia's 604, but we've taken steps to get around that, so we're not in a big time crunch on it. We've already sent them the content, and so as soon as Emily can get that one, for some reason there's some glitch on her end, she's going to fix that. So everybody's course should be up and running. I put things in your shells. Don't change anything on pacing unless you talk with me. One of the things that students do is shop and compare, and they wear me out with, well, this course, they only have to do this and that, and I try to explain the difference between add-on and regular. And some of them trying to be lawyers and go back to the handbook from some year past or whatever. The big thing is this summer is in 603 and 605. We don't, in 603, for the add-ons, we need at least, we need all the OMA, all of the skip, and the first task of the CAP, get them started. If you can get that out of them. That's 9 tasks, and I know that's a short amount of time, but that just leaves them the rest of the CAP and the SOP to finish in the fall. Now, for the 603 regulars, all the OMA in the first 2 of the skip, and then that gives them 604 to knock out the other 2 of the skip and all the CAP. When they arrive in 605 in the spring, all they'll have to do is just a SOP. So that's the pacing that I want for 603 to keep us on track. Now, for 605, Danny's got all the 605s that are regulars. He's just got to, wherever they are, he's got to get them through. Now,
I heard you laugh.
Danny.
In theory, they only have the SOP left. In practice, some of them are still working on the OMA. So,
Put you on our prayer list, Danny.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Danny's got to get them through, and that's why I wanted him to have those, because I'm his backup helper on that one, and I'll take some of the whipping and the blame for that. They're kind of scattered everywhere, but that's the last group that's that way. Everybody else, we've been pacing them, and I appreciate you holding them accountable on not giving them incompletes and making them do their work and all this. And so you notice in the Blackboard shells, we're going to look in a minute, or I can look now. I can show you what I'm talking about. What I've done on every course, in every course shell. Let me open this one up. You notice I have put the grade of incomplete policy and the withdrawal policy right in the shells. And I want you to cover that in the first class with these students. We're having way too many of them now that we're having to pace them much harder because of the 3-semester program especially. You know, they're asking for incompletes at the end. The incomplete policy has got to be a significant life event. It's just got to be like they're missing the last week of work. It can't be they haven't done anything all semester and then they want to do that, or they want to withdraw. That withdrawal business, the reason why I stay in hot water all the time over the withdrawals is over financial aid. If they didn't attend at least, 60% of the class,
Right.
that counts as one of their semesters, and they have to start paying their loans back, and so it's just a whole big thing that we're, this 3-semester program. They asked me, I don't know, it was early in the semester, the spring semester of January, February, was the pacing working out okay on students finishing? I said, well, that would seem to have been the question you'd ask before you went to a 3-semester program, not after. And so this group that, we started with 3-semester, and it worked out fine for the spring 17 people because they were in 605 in the fall. And that's the longest semester. They had 17 weeks and it worked out fine. The problem now is the people we took in the fall in the 3-semester program, they've got 10 weeks to finish 605. So this is our first real trial by fire with 605 add-ons. And so they've got to finish the rest of the cap, and we paced them pretty good in 603. So most all of them have got, I think, the 2 groups that I had, I believe all of them are at least through the cap. And I talked with one earlier today, and he said he's been working on his. We encouraged them to work this time that they've been off, and so hopefully we'll be able to knock out the cap pretty quickly in 605 and then finish up the style. You know that I have made a template for the style that pulls all of it together, and so hopefully that will be quick. So, but we got to stay on our pacing this summer. I put pacing guides, the weekly schedules in all of your shells, and we need to pretty much stay on that. Okay.
Do I need butter?
All right. So back to this. All right. Intern shells, I have moved some students around. I have cleaned out. Let me do something. That'll fix that problem. All right. I have cleaned out the completers from the spring semester. I have taken them out of your shells. Right here's the first of 2 lists. I took those out. They're all gone. I have moved some around. I have reassigned some. And so if you have questions, don't ask them, ask me when you go in, because I've had to move some around at request. And so all of your intern shells should be loaded and ready to go. They should be available. They should have your current students in there. If you have a question over one, let me know. I've taken all the old ones out, so the shell should be good to go. Clinical coach expectations. My expectation is you and the instructor make one another happy. That's really, different people work different ways with their coaches. Now, I'm pretty self-contained when it comes to my classes. I demand them to turn the work in, and I grade it and send it back to them and do the review. Now, if I have a knucklehead that either won't get it or can't get it, that's when I refer them to Danny. He's my coach in 603. Steve's going to be with me in one of my sections this summer, and that's the role that I'll expect Steve to play. I don't expect my coach to come online with me every Wednesday night at 7. If they want to, that's fine. I send them the email every week with the link, but I don't expect them to do that. I expect them to work more with students, that not do my work for me. My expectation of coach is that you work with students and you spend your time with them, not with me. Now, if y'all want to switch back and forth on who comes online, especially in the summertime, who comes online every week, that is an expectation that we're online for students one time every week. If you and your coach want to swap that off, that's fine with me. Danny and I, when we do 601s, we come online twice a week the first 4 weeks, and then we pace it out a little different than that. But we don't have any 601s this summer. It's not imperative that you be online with them twice a week like it is with 601s to keep them from quitting. These people are already invested. Once a week is fine, and you can take turns, or it can be all the instructor, whatever y'all want to do. As long as y'all can work it out, I'm happy with it. Danny and I have a system where I don't wear him out in 603, and he spends his time working with students, which is time well spent. So that's up to you. Evaluator expectations, 48 hours as usual. Pay close attention this summer. We need to keep this work moving. We need to get it back to them as quickly as we can for revision. I caught one yesterday or the day before that came in that had to go back for revision that was left over from the spring semester. If you don't have time to grade it, at least look at it and make sure it's whole, and get it back to them as quickly as you can. Especially toward the end of the semester, they get a little bit, they'll turn them in without all the tasks there, or the one that was sent this week, they didn't compile it. They just in order to do it quickly, they just threw the 4 tasks in there and submitted it. Well, I'm not going to accept that. They have to have a final evidence narrative, with one whole document's what we're looking for. So 48 hours, but get to them as quickly as you can, and at least send them back if they're not ready to evaluate. Zoom and peer review expectations, I've got that in the pacing guide. I have no expectation that Danny will do any Zoom reviews with the 605 regulars or peer reviews. The SIOP has already been peer reviewed. Every component that goes into the SIOP is from a task that's already been peer reviewed. So there is no expectation that the SIOP will be peer reviewed. For those of you teaching 605 regular, the CAP, please have them peer review. Do at least one review. 2 is optional. Have them do at least one review of each of the tasks like they've been doing of the CAP. But when you get to the SIOP, so that we can get through this quickly, there is no peer review of the SIOP. Now, Zoom reviews. I've cut those down for the summer as well. I'm only interested in 603 and peer reviewing the first task of the skip, or the OMA and the skip, and the first task of the CAP. First task need to be reviewed. After that, Zoom reviews after that, no. Don't, I want the written reviews, 1 for each of the tasks, but Zoom reviews either 2 or 3 is 2 for the regulars, because that'd be the OMA, the first task of the OMA and the first task of the skip. 3 for the add-ons, that would be first task of the OMA, skip, and CAP. For Zoom peer reviews, written reviews on all the others, just 1 for the summer. If we try to do 2, we're going to get bogged down, and our posting won't work out. We've already figured that out from last summer. 2 reviews is too much to ask in a 10-week session for that many tasks. It's just too many. That's what slows them down. So Zoom and peer review expectations, 3 Zoom reviews in 603 add-on. That's the first task of the skip, CAP, and OMA. 2 Zoom peer reviews for 603 regulars. That's the first half of the skip and the OMA. 1 written peer review for all tasks except for the SIOP, moving to 605 now. No peer reviews at all for the SIOP. That's previously peer-reviewed work, and so that's the reason why it doesn't need to be. If we can adhere to that, we'll get through this 10 weeks and everybody will stay on schedule. Otherwise, we'll be like we were last summer, where we tried to stay to the 2 peer reviews for every task. We went into the fall, and it was a struggle. We had way too many that didn't make it through in the fall that we had that went to 699 this spring. Way too many. We do not want that. We changed to a 3-semester program, and we just have to live with that. And we have to adjust accordingly, or we're not going to get students through. We're not letting them we're not changing the substance of the content. It's just these reviews. We just need to make sure that we don't let that bog us down. Class session expectations. Let me answer the phone. Yes, Dr. Hamilton. No, I'm actually on Zoom right now with the faculty meeting. I'll call you right back. Thanks. All right. So, class session expectations, as I said earlier, once a week, somebody needs to be online with them. 6:05 town hall is tomorrow at 6 o'clock. That's for the 6:05s. Danny and I are going to do that tomorrow. He's got all the regulars, and those of you who are teaching add-ons, I'd love for you to join me. And we're gonna go over that, what's due this semester, to remind them and give them the drop dead dates. They're already in your shells, but I'm going to remind them, call their attention to those. Summer is the hardest time for 6:05s. They just don't believe, they believe they've got until fall semester starts to get everything in. They do not. I can't get their names printed in the program for graduation. I can't get their names for their licensure completion. All that's got to be in. The drop dead date on that's got to be July 14th, 15th, because that Monday, the 16th, Luann, the registrar, has to have their names that Monday. Can't go any further than that, or they won't get a diploma, or they won't get their certificate. So I'm going to cover that with them tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Danny and I are running that one. Then I've got one at 7 for one of my classes. I do my classes on Wednesday night. I think Phyllis wants to join me to see me run my 6:03. Steve's going to be with me because he's coaching one of those. I run my classes together. I always make sure. Now, Mark's the only one that's not that way. He's got something else this afternoon. He's got a 3 and a 5, a 6:03 and a 6:05. I hate that. They just worked out that way. But everybody else, you should have the same pacing in the same course. Run them together. Don't come online twice a week for 2 classes is the same thing. That's just burning up your time. And so what I do is Wednesday night at 7, I have my class. I invite both classes. Invite my coach, and we roll one time a week for 2 classes. It's just as easy to do a Zoom for 35 as it is 17. And then we, mostly it's for, how I start my class, and Phyllis and Steve will see this Wednesday. I start my class every week the exact same way. We start with the weekly schedule. What was due this week in terms of your reading and your discussion boards, we do not cover those in class. That's not what class is for. But I remind them, all right, on your weekly schedule, you were to read these chapters, these pages, these discussion boards. This is where you are on your evidence artifacts. This is what's due this week. Now, I cover the tasks. So I'll start out Wednesday night. I'll start out with the OMA. I'll cover all 4 tasks. 2 weeks later than that, I'll cover the last 2 tasks again, and then I'll cover the skip, and then I'll cover the cap. I'll pace it out. But I cover that. I spend about 15 minutes covering the task. Students get started. If they get stuck, they go to Danny, so he can work with them individually. That's the way that I run, or they'll go to Steve in the other class. And so that's the way I run my class. That gives me 45 minutes every week to cover content. My content is all ready. I'll show you that. I've uploaded it for you as well. And so, which one is this? This is my C2 section. So in the first week, as you can see on the screen, I'll review all Blackboard functions. Here's the video from last semester from the first night. I'll review the Blackboard. I'll review task stream, the required evidence artifacts. I'll do that. And then what I will spend the majority of my time on Wednesday night is legal requirements for planning and instructional time, because that leads into the OMA 1. And what I've got to get them to understand that 603 is about not building a master schedule, duty roster, and supervision schedule. It's about building a legal master schedule, duty roster, and supervision schedule. There's a big difference. And about the process of how you go about doing that. It sets the context for the entire course that this is all these management operations that you see in a school. There are legal implications and rules and policies that guide all of those. And so that's what I'll spend 45 minutes or 40 to 45 minutes Wednesday night on. The second week, again, I'll start with weekly schedules, what everything's done, and then I'll hit all of these things. We'll go as far as we can the first 2 weeks. We hit all these different things. I introduced the North Carolina General Statutes. I introduced this because this is their first discussion board. What a crisis and box and emergency plan is, facilities inventory, I introduced that, the OMA template, and the example. So I try not to spend, second week we get into relevant court cases. And then we get into my top 10 for administrators and teachers in terms of legal sticky areas that you can get yourself into once we do court cases. You can see each week I have the same process each week where we cover what was due for you from your reading and your discussion boards and your evidence artifacts quickly, but then the content each week supports that weekly topic. And one of the things you got to be careful not to get bogged down in is evidence artifact work. That's all you do every week. That's when you introduce it and you move them over to your coach, and your coach can work with them individually if they have questions or problems. Because we do have content. We should be content driven in our classes. That doesn't mean we ignore evidence artifacts and weekly assignments, but we don't spend time on discussion boards. That's why they're discussion boards. They write those and you read and respond to them during the week. But don't burn up all your class time on the weekly reading, the weekly assignments, the discussion boards, evidence artifacts. Don't burn all your time every week on those. Try to keep it to an hour, but at least 45 minutes of it should be content. And you'll see how I do that. Now, my first session might be a little bit longer on that, but after that, I'm pretty good at, we get to content never more than 15 minutes into our hour. We always, every week I've got at least 45 minutes of content for them, things that are important. And that's kind of the pacing that I want to see in classes where we spend the majority of our time that we're with them on content rather than on other things. All right, questions, concerns for the group. I'm going to unmute you all now. All right.
And I just have a comment. Throughout the semester, the quality of work was quite good. But that last week, you get the procrastinators, and some of the work just, I had to send some of it back, and I hated doing it because I know it was the last week and stuff, but it had to be done, and probably
yes.
I give lower grades in the last week because the quality just wasn't there. I mean, it's human nature, I know, but that was just an observation that I had.
Yes, and I agree 1,000%. That's why I said I sent one back a couple of days ago that came in late. I hate to send it back at this time, but you didn't follow the directions. You didn't put it together in a document, and we didn't turn it in. Either turn it in because you didn't put it together. No, we're not going to play that game where they procrastinate the last week and they think that we're just going to pass whatever they send. No,
and throughout the semester, the 48 hours thing, fine. The last week, golly, you had to be really, really careful about trying to get that back to them. I know you've been great about, sometimes I'll get an email to say somebody submitted some work, and I go in there and, in 15 minutes, you've already gotten to it, So I appreciate that.
The success of this program is based on pacing. We have made pacing be the 800-pound gorilla of this program now, especially because of all the 3-semester people, but even the 5-semester people. Now that we're going into, that this is the big year for us for CAPE accreditation. Prior to this year, this calendar year, outcomes didn't matter. If we had 50 people that went to 699 at the end, that we just had 50 that went to 699. We've had 100 go to 699 at one time. That was okay before CAPE accreditation. CAPE is about outcomes. You can't have that many, we won't get accredited if we have significant numbers not finishing in the stated amount of time that we said the program should take.
Right.
That's just the truth of the matter. As I said to the folks up the hill, we should have thought about pacing before we moved it to a 3-semester program, not afterwards. But they didn't think about that. They didn't think about CAPE coming this year. They moved it, starting January of 17, we moved to a 3-semester add-on licensure program, 3 consecutive semesters. Well, that's all well and good for that year, but for this year, CAPE is monitoring how many of our students get through on time and how many aren't getting through on time. And our numbers have been way too high in the past for us to get through. We have to be at 85% completing on time for us to be accredited. And so there's going to be a few, and we just can't. But the trick is to pace them correctly all along, get them started in 601, understanding the pacing, keep after them. Use the coaches to help those that get behind so the whole group doesn't get behind. It's kind of like flexible grouping in elementary school. The bluebirds, the robins, and the buzzards. And so the buzzards have to go to your coach. You can't let the buzzards drag you down because they will. They'll keep you from pacing, and we can't have large numbers. We can have a few. We had 2 from this spring. We only had 2 that are having to go to 6. Well, one's not technically going to 699. He's taking the summer off because of finances. We only had 1, and Phyllis knows who he is because she had stayed after. We only have 1 that's going to 699 out of the spring group, which is excellent. We only have 1. And so that's the kind of thing that we need to see on a regular basis. That's easy, fairly easy in the spring. Now, it's not easy. It's easier in the spring. In the summer, if we get all these people through this summer and we only have 1 that goes to 699, when we normally have about half the group going to 699 that don't get through in the summer, if we only have 1 this summer, that'll be a miracle. That'll be easier than getting them. It'll be harder to do that than pass a camel through the eye of a needle, I can tell you. We only have 1 that doesn't make it this summer and that doesn't make it through. I'll be the happiest person in Bowling Springs, I can tell you that.
And that was just my concern that, like I said, the whole semester, it was fine, but that last week, you're trying to help them, trying to get them through, trying to get stuff back to them as quickly as they can. And then with the summer session being, just so much shorter that,
so we got to pace them, got to work with them. We got to make sure, that the coaches are involved, and keep them. And we got to keep them on pace with their work.
And the other one was, and when you got that straightened out, was I thought you were talking about some people weren't getting the email notifications say there's work and tasks. I've done everything that we know to do, and that's still not as clean as it needs to be. And Seth has worked on that, and I'm not going to throw him under the bus. Well, I just want to say to the group, if there's anybody maybe whose work I haven't got back in time to them, just go ahead and either call me or email me and let me know, because
and I look every morning and every evening, and I keep up. And when I have a few extra minutes, I go ahead and grade 1 or 2. Just to stay in practice myself. I grab a couple every day and keep them moving through. Sometimes even if I don't have time to grade them, I'll open them up and look at them to make sure that they're all there, and then close them back up, and I'll send them back right quick. But it's
my only concern was when I looked at the screen up at the top, it said no evaluations required.
Mm-hmm.
And you had to go down through every class and see every individual class. And
I know.
every individual class. So if I missed one, it was because it said no evaluations required. But then going through every class to find the one that did have an evaluation was a bit frustrating, but
Yeah.
after I realized what was happening, I was able to take care of it.
Yeah, but see, if it shows for class, it's supposed to show up in the large bin as well, but it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
I know, and that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't.
No.
And we've turned everything that we know to turn on to make it do that, and it doesn't do it for all of them. So I don't know. I think that again. I think that problem is going to work itself out now that we're through with the old program students. That was the last of the old program students that we just got through with from 2016. It seems to me that we only had that problem with some of the older DRFs that were different. The ones now are all the same shell types. We don't seem to be having those problems, but now we've still got a couple from the, like Gary Payne from the old DRF. We'll have to monitor him, make sure if he ever turns anything in that we grade it. But I think that problem, John, is associated with those older DRFs, and as we divest ourselves of those, I think this problem is going to cure itself. We don't seem to be having that problem from fall 17 and spring 18. I didn't see any problems with those. I did see earlier DRFs. I did see that same problem. You're exactly right. Okay. They would not show up in the needs grading bin.
Right.
They would only show up under the individual DRFs. You actually had to physically go in and hunt them.
Yes. So now that I'm aware of it,
so I'm hoping, let me know if you find any like that from the newer DRF starting from fall of 17 forward.
Yeah.
And we got in touch with TaskStream, and they told us that that everything was turned on.
And likewise, if
TaskStream in New York.
If there's any student that hasn't had their work back within 48 hours, absolutely contact me. Let me know, because
I can do that.
The only thing that caused me not to do that is I've overlooked it somehow.
No.
I don't mind somebody contact me at all. 100%.
Yeah, we're trying to keep up with them.
Yeah.
But in terms of the spring semester, it was very successful. I want to thank all of you. This is kind of the benediction here. We'll pass the plate here and sing Just As I Am. But it was a very, very successful semester. Students seemed to be happy. The feedback was good. SOIs were good. The exit surveys, we had a record turnout on exit surveys. We topped 70% on our exit surveys. The college was very pleased with those. The comments were very positive. The numbers were good. The ones that the students that sent me the ones from the class, so 5 very positive comments in terms of what they felt like they got from the program. So I'm very pleased with that part. I couldn't be happier with that part. We just got to get us some more helpers. And to that end, I've got a couple more people in the hopper because I'm wearing some of you out too much and some of you I'm not using enough. But the numbers for the fall don't look as strong as I'd like for them to look. Last fall we started with 180. Of course, we lost a good many of those, about 20 right off the top, because they didn't get email notifications. That broke down and the university didn't know it. So we actually started with 160 in the fall. Right now we've got 111 new ones. They said that they thought we'd pick up more during the summer. But I would like for that number to be a little bit stronger, but I think it's going to be okay. So we had 8 new classes in last fall, and we're getting rid of 7 of those this summer, I believe. So we're going to need a bunch in the fall, but I think Wednesday's numbers were 111. I'd have felt better if they'd have been in the 140 range. That would put us on pace where we were last year. So we're about 30 behind where we were last year, but that they claim it's going to pick up. They, being KTA, our recruiter, claims that's going to pick back up. They feel good that we'll hit last year's totals. I'm not sure, but I'll start making some plans. Once we get through this week and we kind of get our feet on the ground and everybody does the class, I'll start looking at numbers and assignments for the fall here pretty quickly. And if you have thoughts or ideas on that, let me know. The new dean's coming in on July 1. I don't know if we're going to have the fall schedule set before then, or they're going to wait till he gets in. I don't have any notion of that, but I'm going to start working on a preliminary schedule as early as next week for the fall, and looking at assignments to kind of let you know where we are. And so I'll start working on that next week. I hope everybody's shell is where they need it to be. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call. If you want to join me, if you're teaching 6:05, 6 o'clock tomorrow, we'll make sure you get the link. And if you get the link and you're not involved with 6:05, if you want to join us, fine. If you don't, that's not an expectation, but we'll do that tomorrow. We're doing that tomorrow at 6. All right. Questions from the group? I appreciate all that you do for me and for our students. I feel good. I only went 7 minutes over my time today. That's pretty good for me.
I do have one question, and it's about the Turnitin situation. If students are going to do some cutting and pasting from previous papers, that paper has already been through Turnitin, so you'll take that into consideration when you set the cutoff?
The SIOP, the SIOP, they'll run it through that, and it should match their previous papers, but it'll tell you what it matches.
Yeah, but I mean, if you just change instead of 50, if you say, you know, the number that it has to be.
Well,
below.
the number on that's kind of insignificant, because we can click over on the side and it'll give us the breakdown.
Right.
It'll tell us that it just matches their own paper, and that's fine.
Okay.
And so I hesitate to take that out because they might use somebody else's,
Right.
which kind of happens when they get to the SIOP sometimes. Quite honestly, that's where we have the most problem with folks just kind of using somebody else's. They get in a hurry at the end. Their time gets short. So that's why I made that template to tell them where to go and look for that stuff. It's already there. You've done the work, and it saves them a tremendous amount of time if they'll use that template, because it tells them this is where you go find this. And I have it laid out for them because they've done the work. They're just putting it together now. And so I know there's value in struggle, but but not that struggle. So I'm aware of that, but I think we'll be able to cover that. Let's see what this student wants. I bet she's thinking hers is not in. All right. If there are no more questions, we will meet again next Monday at 6 to kind of do a postmortem on the first week, problems, issues, concerns that come up. So we normally do it every other week, but since this is the first week, we'll meet next Monday at 6. So that way, if you have class at 7, you can get right into your class, and then we'll get on our regular every other week schedule after that. All right. I've got, looks like student emails waiting. I better get on these. I got to call Dr. Hamilton back. We're DOLing today as well. So thank you for all you do. I'll see you again soon.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye.